Yeah, one of the things that intrigued me, and I heard a couple of your podcasts that you were a guest on, Out of the Woods, where you go into significant detail about the things you were involved with and some of the things that happened to you on a personal level. And then there was this other podcast that I was listening to. It's called Effing Canceled, and it's by two young Canadians. I say young because I'm 58, but they're younger, and they're definitely very strong leftists. And they're really speaking out strongly. The names are Clementine Morgan and 𝗲𝗓𝗓. And they're fascinating in the sense that they talk about this. The issue, as they describe it in the social justice movement, is what they describe as the nexus, where it's the synthesis of identitarianism, social media, and cancel culture come together and form this toxicity that's negatively impacting the great work that many people are doing. And so they're speaking out against, primarily against cancel culture, because they themselves have been canceled. You yourself suffered tremendous personal harm through cancellation. And so I would recommend that podcast because there's wonderful guests, and I think they're very progressive in their views. And they also are looking for ways for the left to become more cohesive, as well as not causing so much harm to the individuals and discouragement. And so one of the things where I originally found you is I was, looking for potential guests. You had written a piece, and you are an excellent writer, by the way. I just like the way you write. And it was entitled "Excommunicate Me from the Cult of Toxic Social Justice." And I like the fact that you said you referred to it as a cult for one, but then you specifically put the word toxic in there, and not just social justice, but toxic. And so I think you're defining, look, there's a toxicity here that needs to be dealt with. And you were inspired, as you allude to in the article, by a queer Chinese American named Francis Lee, who's an interfaith chaplain at Harvard Divinity School. And they had written a similar piece, "Excommunicate Me from the Church of Social Justice." And in yours, you outline some of the things that you went through. And I just want to read what impacted me about what you wrote. And you said here, "In the process of promoting my course, Hawthorne Heart, Boundary Skills and Protection Magic, I have been attacked and pressured in a number of different ways online. People have told me to kill myself. They've told me that I'm a fraud, that my work is killing them. I've been asked, how dare you charge money for something that is so desperately needed? I've been told that I must give scholarships to someone or else I am oppressing them. While I have struggled with homelessness and meeting my needs, people have made posts saying that my work is a scam. They say I am taking advantage of traumatized people, that I am manipulating and I am stealing from people. When I have stepped in to resolve conflict in the Facebook group attached to my course, my qualifications have been questioned and my words ridiculed. Folks have not taken the course, who were invited to join the group for free, are often the harshest. I have been threatened and gaslit repeatedly, most implicitly but explicitly too. I can't help but notice how often we try to get our needs met through critique. I can't help but notice how infrequently this actually works, and how much lonelier this way of relating makes us. These conditions are not conducive to liberation or healing or deeply needed visionary leadership. These conditions are coercive and eerily similar to witch hunts. These conditions lead young visionaries to burnout, give up, and sometimes even kill themselves. These conditions have led me to want to kill myself. Yes, I spent most of this past winter battling suicidal ideation. I'm feeling more stable now. This is not restorative justice, which we deeply need, but largely don't know how to practice. This is lateral violence. I know I'm not the only one who is ready for something new. I know that me and my loved ones are not the only ones having hushed conversations, confessing to each other that we're scared to say in public, I'm done, I am done. A lot of people in our audience may not understand fully what you're saying about being canceled. Okay, they might have a concept, but what did that look like for you? You had your business going and you were a leader, you're an influencer, and then you say you got canceled twice. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, so I mean, at that time, my following was maybe about 5,000 people, which, now I think we think of people with a successful online business as having, 10, 20, 30, 50, 100,000 people. But But it looked different in 2018 because in 2018, more of your followers were being shown what you were doing. And, you know, this was my livelihood. It employed me. It also employed a few other people. And so the first time I got canceled, you know, somebody wrote actually like it was an over 100-page document, and it was not just about me. And I think that person ended up coming off seeming not totally mentally stable. And it was hurtful because it was personal, but it didn't really do that much damage to my business or to my public persona. The second time that I got canceled, there was a lot of lead up to this, and I do talk about it more in Molly's podcast, so I won't totally hash it out now. But essentially, I had a fairly active class and a fairly active Facebook group, and I wanted to leave the Facebook group because it had at one point been fairly self-directed and was very active and had lots of people who were engaging in my class. And then suddenly some people, and one person in particular, came in and made every single conversation about race in ways that I tried to accommodate, but also I saw the group just dwindle, like it just went from being very active, very supportive, people being really warm and helpful to each other, to someone asking a question and being told the fact that you're asking that question is racist, in a way that was like, it was challenging to deal with. And so I decided I didn't want to run the Facebook group anymore. And what I should have done is just shut down the group. But instead I offered to have somebody else run it. And the person who had been making all of these comments decided that they wanted to be the new person running it. And for months they were pressuring me to pay them to run it. And I didn't have, like I said, I was living in a vehicle, right? Like I did not have enough money to pay this person a salary. Like I was barely making enough money after all of my expenses to pay myself a salary. And also I'm not going to pay this person a salary when the way that they're functioning inside of the group is making the group die. Like the group is not functional anymore, right? So basically what happened was I left the group around the same time that article you were reading came out. And this person inside of the group sort of indirectly accused me of stealing their writing and reproducing it without their permission. And what had actually happened was that a section of the class that was about decolonization, and I live in a province where there are very few Black people and there is a very large Indigenous population, and all of the activism and learning I had done about decolonization was like local to where I lived. And this person was very, very angry that I hadn't included Black people in this chapter that I wrote. And I told her, that's not my experience. That's not something I feel comfortable speaking to. But if you would like to write something, you can. And in negotiating and navigating this person to be writing something for me, this person became very aggressive and very demanding. And we never really nailed down the exact terms of what they would be writing or for how much money. And then they made it appear as if I had stolen their writing and published it without their permission, which never happened. Like they never wrote this thing for me to steal it. Nor would I do that. Like that's just not the type of person that I am. And what happened as a result of that was the main way that I promoted my business was through writing on 2 larger blogs, both of which were very social justice oriented. And so, one of those blogs ended up writing an article that was like, it was about me, but it didn't talk about me directly. But it was obvious that the person who ran the website was getting a lot of heat from my writing being on there. And, was basically told that I was racist and I was stealing things from Black women, which was just like, it was just factually not true. And then she shut down her blog shortly after this. And I think it was because she just couldn't handle the heat of the conflict. And then the other organization that I was working for was run by Black women. And they wanted to do an investigation into what had happened. And at that time, I just really felt like I couldn't trust that process. I was like, I'm just not willing to, like, what am I going to do? Like hand you all of my emails with this person? Like you're the court system and like be found guilty or not of being racist. Like it just really felt like the cards were sort of stacked against me and there was no recovering from this. I feel that the experience of being publicly shamed and humiliated, and, you know, at that time I used the pronoun they. My partner was also not cisgendered, and it was wild to see these hundreds of comments coming in, misgendering me, misgendering him, like just really attacking me from any angle that felt available to people. And since then, people have apologized to me for participating in this kind of mob. And on the one hand, I appreciate that, and I think that it's good. And on the other hand, it's also just kind of like, you know, the damage had been done, you know, so there's no going back. At the same time, though, I also feel like I just don't want to live that way anymore. And I think that I had to go through that in order to truly understand the implications of that ideology and how it functions, and the idea that when we make accusations towards somebody, we have to automatically believe the person who is accusing someone. And I think it's a very complex issue, because it is true that the burden of proof when somebody is hurt, especially in the court system, is so high that it can become really, really difficult to prove that someone has done something terrible. But at the same time, if we don't keep that burden of proof really high, we can create really devastating consequences for people who don't deserve it. And yeah, I mean, I'm a very different person now after having had experienced all of this.